Welcome to Money Conversations with KJ. KJ is a lifelong entrepreneur who's made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, and found his way back again. If you're looking for a sterile how-to, you're in the wrong place. KJ and his guests will walk you through real-life situations told by the people who live them, and they are as messy as they are inspiring. Each episode will offer lessons learned, advice on how to replicate successes and avoid pitfalls, and a new perspective to power your financial literacy. Far from a one-size-fits-all, this podcast can help you build a roadmap to your personal promised land. Milk and honey for some, whiskey and steak for others, and remind you that you're not alone on this journey.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, KJ, with Money Conversations. I have a guest here. I think I've known Joe here about 4 or 5 years.
About 4 years now,
yeah. About 4 years or so. He's part of the golf group that I golf with, and, you know, I'm always trying to get somebody out here on the show, and I know some of Joe's story just because once I found out where he worked and what he does, I'm like, you know what, I needed that. I mean, that helps me within my house flipping stuff. Mm-hmm. So, so I think when we go through Joe's story, Joe, right now you're what,
36.
36. And I think where he's sitting in life right now, he's doing pretty well for himself. And we're going to figure out what he did and how he is, where he is today. Because I think maybe you can set a really good example, especially for people right in your age range, and or some lessons that people that are maybe, you know, much older or younger than you, like, hey, I want to replicate that path kind of thing and the decisions that you've made. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, KJ.
Awesome. So Joe, first question everybody gets right out of the gate is, Joe, can you remember, as far back as you can, how old you were when mom and dad sat you down and taught you about money?
So I'll be honest, they never really taught me much. It was kind of like self-taught, really.
Yeah.
A lot of it came from friends. You know, I grew up with the same group of friends for now over 25 years. So since we were kids, we kind of just grew up together, and my parents were my dad was more of the steady one, had the same, kind of like I am now, had the same job for 32 years, retired at 55, worked for the union. So, and my mom was she was kind of a stay-at-home mom, but at the same time, she probably had over 40, 50 jobs.
Wow.
And
okay.
What she would do is, anytime it was Christmas or birthdays coming up for the kids, she would always go get a job so she can make enough money to, you know, give us a little party and presents and stuff like that. So that's kind of like...
So a little part-time stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to make a few extra bucks. So you're normal. I mean, everybody asks that question too, and I'm going to say 99 out of 100 is, yeah, mom and dad didn't sit me down.
Yeah. And
we wonder why people today, in today's world, 64% of Americans live in paycheck to paycheck. Well, no one ever taught you how to play the money game, right? But you just mentioned, but through friends, right? Mm-hmm. And so I always say, well, if mom and dad didn't teach you, and we don't consciously look at it that way. You know what I mean? We just grow up, we go to school, we finish school, we figure, all right, I got to go to work. And like you said, you kind of figure it out. But prior to figuring it out, so to speak, mm-hmm. since mom and dad didn't sit you down, and you just mentioned your dad's like you, right? You've been in your position in the company you're at a while now, and your dad did his long term. Do you think we learn subconsciously from our parents, even if they don't sit us down, mm-hmm. right? And I've had conversations where someone will tell me, well, you know, my mom was a spender and I'm a spender now, because that's just what we see. And we just believe whatever mom and dad are doing must be right. It's mom and dad, right?
Yeah.
And so do you think that's why your position at your work, you just saw your dad do what he did, and you're like, that's normal. I guess I get a job, and I'll just hang out there for however long you're going to be there. Do you think?
I do think so, yeah. I think I did get a lot of that from my dad because, you know, I had a stable life growing up. I mean, we weren't well off or anything, but we got by, and we were fine. You know, I've, you know, four siblings, so 2 brothers and a sister, and, you know, yeah, I think just seeing how steady he was in his life, it just...
Well, that's interesting. So you got siblings. You have siblings. Are they the same as you with money?
My sister, yes. Not my brothers, though. My brothers my brothers are different.
So it's funny because that's a mindset, right? That's just how we think and act with our time and money. And did you ever sit down with your dad and say, hey, Dad, now I've noticed you did one position and it's worked out for you. I think I'm going to go down that road. Did you ever have a conversation like that?
No, I don't think I ever did.
No?
I don't think we ever had like
Not a sit down.
Yeah, no like sit down conversation or anything.
So, well, let's kind of unpack that, because I'm just, again, so many conversations. There's a lot of people out there. Now I have listeners all over the world, and some people have to find their path, right? Mm-hmm. And again, even though the path you're on, described as your dad was, I'm sure you know a lot of people that are the opposite. Maybe like you described your mom, who's had, all these jobs, but she didn't have all those jobs because she needed to. Correct. She did them because she wanted to. Because she wanted something else.
She wanted to do something for the family,
Right.
She knew my dad was kind of just the one to get us by, put food on the table. But when things came up and we wanted to do stuff as kids or anything, that's kind of when she came in with the extra money to help out with that.
Right. And so since there's people, and I'm sure you've had some of your friends and people that are the opposite, right? I think the average person will hold a job about 2 years, and then they either get bored or they're not making enough money, and they're like, I got to move along. I'm just not going to make any more money here.
Yeah.
It's usually why people will change jobs, is they're not making enough money, or they just, I don't like doing this or whatever. But let's talk to the people about what you're doing now, why you do it, and where do you think your future is over the next 10, 15 years?
Yeah. So, now I'm actually a branch manager for a company called Peterman Lumber. Right. So I've actually been with the company for 18 years now. So
is that your first job?
Nope. No. It wasn't my first job. So like most people at 16 years old, I started at Quiznos making sandwiches.
Okay.
But same thing. I just kind of always had that drive to do something better, within what I was doing at the time. So even when I worked at Quiznos, within probably I worked there a little over about 2.5 years. And within my first year, I was already like a supervisor, kind of, right. Running my own shifts, and I just kind of always had that like management mindset.
I think the lesson here for you guys out there listening is, sounds like you have a really good work ethic.
Yeah.
Right. And you now manager, so you got people who work, you have employees that are under you. Is that something hard to find these days?
Absolutely.
Work ethic, right? People just they get lazy. They don't want to work. They want as little as possible and get paid high, right?
Yeah.
And you developed a good work habit early, and it sounds like just from dad, subconsciously, just watching, right? And again, so for you guys listening out there, someone doesn't have to teach you, because sometimes we get mentors in life, right? Mm-hmm. Like, do you have or had you had a mentor in life at all?
I wouldn't say so. No, I don't think I ever really had like a mentor.
All self-driven.
Yeah, even I was working when I was 12 years old, like in summer times, just right. Always had that grind in me, like I always just wanted to figure a way to make some money, honestly.
So, well, let's talk about the money then.
Yeah, because
it's funny though, a little side note here. So I've literally only had one other guest on, and you know him, that got his first job right out of high school and rode his wave all the way through till retirement, right? Oh, wow. Which is really rare. So for you to do that at such a young age, and here you are at your age and been there 18 years, this is a rarity. This doesn't happen today.
No, it's very rare. Yeah,
it's very
since
rare.
18 years old, I started with the company.
And we'll get into why you're still there, right, in a minute. But how old were you when you said, you know what, nobody actually sat you down with money, what did you do proactively to figure out this money game, to not spend every dime you have on, frivolous stuff, right? When did you figure out, I need to save my money a little bit, or I want this, I want that? When did you start figuring that out, and how?
Probably, honestly, it was kind of when I became an outside sales rep with Peterman Lumber. So growing up, I wasn't much of a money saver. I was spending it as fast as I can get it. But it was until I, bought my first home, had more responsibilities, is when it kind of really opened my eyes to the future. And,
Well, bought your first home. How old were you when that happened?
24.
So that's pretty young to be a homeowner, 24. Did you, if you bought it at 24, you made that decision at least a year or two before. Like, I need to save for a down payment. Mm-hmm. I need to make $X before I can be a homeowner. So you thought about home ownership early.
So I'll be honest. I'm thankful my grandma. She's the one that helped actually me, and then one of my older brothers. It was kind of, before she passed, she wanted to make sure all her grandkids were well off and, in a home or established. So she gave me the down payment to kind of get my first home, get me, know.
Did she sit you down a little bit of money lessons if she did that?
No.
Or she just said, you know what?
Unfortunately not. Yeah.
Here's grandma, and then, I've accumulated $X, and I'm going to share it with you guys. And I want to, and she told you, I want you to use this for a down payment on a house?
Yep.
Or did she say, here's the money, do whatever you want?
Nope, it was strictly for a down payment on a house.
Strictly. So she knew. Well, kudos to grandma. Do you think if grandma hadn't have given you that money and put that, I'm going to say, seed in your head about a house, that you wouldn't have bought a house yet?
Probably not at that age, no.
Not at that age.
No.
You'd have been a few more years.
Yeah. Because it was definitely in the back of my mind. Like I wanted to, where I was at the time, I wanted to get away, move out, kind of get on my own. Because, you know, I was kind of, you know, that kid that, you know, had a bunch of roommates and we all lived in the house together. So,
well, how would you classify yourself? A saver or a spender?
I'm a saver.
You're a saver.
I'm definitely a saver.
Saver based on watching mom and dad doing what they did with their money.
Yeah.
Right. So mom and dad didn't squander money. They were a little bit of savers, responsible. Right. We always say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Right.
Yeah.
And in your case, true. So as you're going through learning the stuff, the money game, as I like to call it, let's talk about credit and credit cards. When did that come into your life?
Unfortunately, pretty early. Probably when I was 18, I can get my first credit card. I did. Yeah. And, you know, when I'm that age, I probably racked it up to like $5,000. You know, I put
a lot of money.
Yeah. I put some money on it and not knowing, not being, like I said, very responsible, spending more than I was bringing in at the time kind of thing. So, maybe one person that kind of taught me a lesson on that would actually be my oldest brother. Oh. So when I made the decision to move here, because originally from Southern California, so when I made the decision to move to Vegas, obviously for this career, right, he is the one that actually gave me money to pay off all my debt. Oh. So I was able to move here debt free. Actually came here with no lie with $100 in my wallet. That's all I had when I came to Vegas.
Came out, found a job.
Yeah. Well, so thankfully I had the job already.
Right. Okay. Relocated.
I had a friend that was already living here, so I kind of had a place to stay already. So it made it an easier move for me. But it was nice kind of coming here, being clean slate and, you know, kind of like a fresh start.
So I can just hear some of the listeners out there. Well, this guy, grandma helped him, and then his brother helped him. You know, maybe, you know, you're not the super responsible guy that we're kind of seeing just yet, but we're going to keep unfolding here. You know what I mean? But you're learning lessons along the way.
Absolutely.
And when people did that for you, were you at any time, let's say, call it before 25 or you bought your first house, did you start to be proactive about what you were doing with your money and any type of investing or parking money and vehicles? Like, because with the career, the job you have now, and when you started, did they start you right away with any type of retirement plan?
Not right away. It was probably within the first about 3 years is when the company opened up like a 401k.
Right.
So I've had a 401k since I was 24 as well.
Okay. So, and they just, like most, you know, employers, they'll just come in, bring you in an office. There's probably 7 or 10 questions to ask you. And then how much do you want to save? I mean, did they go any deeper than that?
Not really. It was kind of almost broken down like how aggressive you want to be with the 401k.
Exactly.
And at my age, you obviously go with the most aggressive route. And
Right. So would you say you've always lived within your means, or do you spend, you know, or you always, whatever you make, you spend?
No, I definitely live within my means now.
Yeah.
You know, when I was younger, you know, single, before I, you know, met my wife, and I was definitely kind of spending not more than what I had, but I wasn't saving.
Okay.
But it was actually until, you know, I met my wife is kind of really when it opened my eyes a lot more about how much money I had. You know, once I knew I wanted to marry her, and I kind of had to figure out, all right, well, now I got to figure out how to get a ring and pay for a wedding. And that's kind of what opened my eyes too.
Did you and her have these types of money conversations? Or that was just yourself being
myself.
A responsible man saying, I'm getting ready to take on a big role here.
Trying to figure it out for myself.
Right.
That's kind of how I've always been. I just kind of figured it out on my own.
Figured out through, again, I'm trying to get, so people oftentimes don't actually do the homework, don't actually do the research of the things they should do when it comes to money. They'll do that like a vacation, let's just say. People will plan for months and months for a specific vacation, where they're going, what they're going to do, how much money they're going to, I mean, it's just lots of stuff, right? But when it comes to money, it seems that we all don't do that. We just want to go trade time for money, right? Go punch in, punch out, get your check, figure out what I'm going to do, kind of a thing, and not really think long term. And that's why 64% of Americans today are living paycheck to paycheck, because they don't think ahead like that. But in your case, I'm just still trying to figure out for the people that, again, at 36, Joe's sitting really, really in a great spot for your age. Do you feel real comfortable where you're sitting right now in life? You're going to retire at some point in time, and you're going to be fine and comfortable. Maybe not a millionaire, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
No, I don't know.
You don't stress. You don't have anxiety about money.
No.
Did you have anxiety about money when you were younger?
Absolutely. Of course. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Before, it was when I became like an outside sales rep. It really opened my eyes to what you can really make because it's endless.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm 100% about sales, being any type of sales that you want to do out there because there's no ceiling, right?
Correct.
When you go get paid $X, and you trade time for money, you get paid $X for whatever it is that you do. That's it. You can, you can get a raise here and there, but there's still a ceiling.
Yeah.
Versus if you're under commission, you're like, hey, the harder and smarter I work.
Harder the work, the more successful
smarter
you can
I know
be.
how to do this, right? It's all about, I like to teach people, like, you're giving value to the world. And the more value that you can give to the world, the more money you're going to get paid. Meaning, so if you make a company a lot of money, well, you're going to get compensated.
Correct.
Right? Versus just coming in here and like making sandwiches at Quiznos.
Yeah.
That's it. You're going to get paid your whatever, $10 an hour. And they're not going to give you any more. They don't care if you made 2 sandwiches today or 100, right? You get paid the same amount of money. So what would you say so far at 36 now, and you're sitting comfortable? You don't have financial anxiety. You're not living check to check. What was your worst money decision so far?
Ooh, that's a tough one, actually, to really
because
think
regrets,
about.
right? We can look back on, man, if I didn't do that, maybe I'd be a little further than where I am, and I'm on a good track. But what do you think?
So I would probably say, I've invested in cryptocurrencies.
Okay,
and I don't want to say aggressive in the beginning, but I got in at a good time, and I got out too early, and it's kind of always a regret. I definitely regret it.
Right.
But it was never a long-term thing with me at the time.
But you made money though.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I still made money. So, I mean, it was a regret though, cashing out early, but
right. Yeah. I mean, especially if you'd have waited till it hit its peak and then, right. That's okay. And let's go down the road of investing. How old were you? So you invested in crypto. When did you wait till you had a certain amount of money before you decided, hey, I'm going to start, other than my 401k? That's automatic, right? That is set in place. Yeah. You don't see it or feel it because it's your pay. You get your paycheck, it's already done. The employer does it. But then outside of that, after you cash your check, when did you decide, you know what, I'm making decent money and I've got some extra, I'm gonna go ahead and invest? And besides crypto, was there anything else? And what made you do that?
Friends. So I had a friend that was actually heavily invested in it, and he, we would hang out all the time, and he was, kind of showing me the ropes of how to get involved and invested in it. And so it was kind of that time that, I knew I wanted to, marry my now wife.
Right.
And like I said, I was trying to figure out how to get a ring and pay for a wedding.
So that was, the investing was a means to an end, so to speak.
It was.
So, I mean, nowadays weddings can cost whatever money you want to spend on them. But in your case, and I won't ask you the number, I'll just use a fake number. Let's just say, for me to buy a ring and get married, I need 20 grand, let's just say. And so you said to yourself, well, I can either save 20 grand over the next 2 years or whatever, or I can invest in this crypto and it's going pretty good. Maybe I can make 20 grand in 6 months. Is that something like went through your mind?
Yeah, it was. Because like I said,
is that when you cashed out because you got to the number that you were striving for?
Well, it was very volatile.
It is.
It is very volatile. So, I mean, it did really well for a while. It kind of flatlined. I kind of got a little more involved than I should have. And I started trying to do like some kind of trading, and I was kind of day trading a little bit with it. And, kind of playing around with it. Some days I did good. Some days I did bad.
Right.
And then I just finally got to a point, and I didn't take it all out at once. It was periodic. So I took out kind of what I needed to be able to afford what I, needed to at the time.
Right.
And then I still have some invested, I still have some money in there. I kind of left some, in a couple different coins and
let it ride.
Yeah. Kind of still hanging on to it.
Well, that's investing, guys. When we invest, I don't think, and I'm going to go ahead and say you might've got lucky, because the thing with people who try to time the market in any manner, you're never going to win. No one can time the market. It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
And so the people that do usually end up losing. If you're going to invest, it's usually best to invest long-term, even short-term, which could be at least 3 to 5 years on something, right away about. But we should think about long-term, right? And then as an investment's growing, something comes up. In your case, it was getting married or whatever. And in some cases, it could be someone's first home. Like, I've been investing a while now, and I want to put at least a 10 or 20% down payment, and I've been doing XYZ with my money. So how are you So you went through that wave of crypto. Any other types of investing have you doing? Where else do you park money now?
So me and my wife, we have an E-Trade account.
Okay.
So, we put a little bit of money into that every month and kind of just building on that.
And so you're doing just picking stocks?
Yeah.
Picking stocks. So you're not in any type of index funds or mutual funds? No? Has anybody talked to you or showed you how that one's played?
No,
No?
unfortunately not.
Yeah. Well,
because I do know there's still a lot for me to learn. Like, I'm only 36, so I'm still young. I still got a long life, and
you got a ways to go.
Yeah.
But I want you to understand, as I teach people, understanding how compounding works, right? And you work at the lumber store there, and you're manager, so you look at numbers a lot.
Yes.
And so with compounding works on time. And you're at 36. You're only roughly just a few years out from half of your life, likely, right? I hope you live to be 100, but statistically, and we use statistics from on life, how long we live, based on what the life insurance companies tell us, because that's how they insure us, right? And the average man right now lives 84 years. So, but I think as time goes on, we're all going to live longer. 50 years ago, life expectancy was 60 years old, and now we're living to be 84. So, by the time you get in that upper age, you're likely to be between 90 and 100. You're likely to be there. So
I hope so.
You're not at the halfway point, but let's leverage time, right? Leveraging time, because you're not going to work when you're 80 or 90, hopefully. You don't have to, you know what I mean? And so for you guys listening out there, and if you're in this age range, Joe's 36, it's still important to value time and leverage what you do have, right? Because I promise you, I'm 60. I wished I would have started putting money to work when I was 30 or even 20. And that's why I teach my kids, and my youngest, she started investing in index funds at 20 years old. So you can imagine what compounding is going to do for her when she's 50.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or 60, even that much more, because compounding is a funny thing. It's very slow in the beginning to get rolling, but it's like a snowball. When you start a little one on the mountain, by the time it gets to the bottom of the mountain, it's a giant ball, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how compounding is. And we, at the end, are the big rewards. And we want to move that finish line back for us, right? I don't know yet. I mean, I'm 61, but I still feel pretty good. I do whatever I want pretty much. That I don't want to wait till I'm 80, whatever, to have a big chunk of money. I want to enjoy money now.
Correct. Yeah.
And so let's start that ball going down the mountain, that snowball, as soon as possible. And if you can do it, if you're out there, if you can do it before the age of 20, yeah, you'll be really, really happy. And it's not a lot of money that you have to put away annually. In your case, are you saving a specific percentage of money or putting it to work annually, or just depends how you're doing with other things?
Yeah, it kind of just depends how it's going. I mean, these last obviously couple of years have been a little bit tougher,
Right.
So I haven't been setting aside, unfortunately, as much money as I wish I have. But
well, it sounds like what you've been doing. I'm going to ask this question this next question has to do with goals and goal setting. So the way that you saw your parents do what they did, and you're kind of, I think, subconsciously went down that path. Mm-hmm. How are you, and how long have you been setting goals? And what's your process of setting a goal?
I set goals for myself probably like yearly. Okay. I don't really set too much expectations, but
do you write them down?
No.
You keep them in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I teach that lesson that Harvard did back in '79. A graduating class of Harvard of '79. They'd ask the class, how many of you have goals? How many of you have clear written goals? Mm-hmm. They went back to them 10 years later and found out that the students who wrote down, only 3% of the students wrote down that they had clear written goals at the time they graduated college. So 97% didn't. They just said they were in their head. I had goals. Well, 10 years later, the ones who had clear written goals, they were making 10 times more money.
Wow.
So I teach people, it's vitally important. We got to write these things down. And I like to use the analogy. It's like a roadmap. It's like if you were to get in your truck right now. Well, for example, you were on the other side of the valley and you came over here. Did you plug it into your GPS to get here?
I did.
Right?
Yeah.
So the GPS told you exactly how to get here, the streets, and today it'll tell you exactly how long it took you, 17 minutes or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how we need to treat our goals, right? We need to write them down and find a clear written path of how we're going to get there. Because if you didn't, you would have got here either way, because you know the city. You might have taken a different route. You might have taken you a little bit longer. And the same goes with our goals, whether they're money or whatever our goals are in life. But the more that we can write and have clear written goals, the faster we're going to get to where we want to go and get to the next one. So I encourage you to try to start that habit. It's easier said.
It makes complete sense.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
Easier said than done for sure, right? But having clear written goals will get us our path in life much easier, right? Yeah. You're on a good path, and you're doing great statistically, because now it sounds like you're hanging around a pretty good, set of peers, people around you. So are most of your peers about where you're at, your age, owning home, got married, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we're all kind of around the same time frame,
around the same time. And so there's another thing that we talk about out there, that we are the 5 people we hang around with. So we have to be careful who we hang around with. So do you remember growing up, is there someone that maybe was in that circle that you have now that has dropped out of that circle because they didn't, say, keep up, or they were doing negative things or something?
Oh, yeah. No, there's definitely a good handful of them, unfortunately.
Right? And that you just distance yourself. Not like you don't call somebody up overnight, a friend, you're like, yo, bro, you treat your life like crap. I can't be around you. Yeah. You're negative to me, right? I mean, nobody really does that. We just slowly stop communicating. Until pretty soon you're like, oh, I haven't talked to Bob in about 6 months now. You're like, man.
It's kind of what happens.
He's out.
People kind of grow apart after time.
They grow apart. But if you're like-minded people, that's who we are.
Yeah.
So really think about who your circle of 5 people are. That's who we all are. So for you guys out there listening, if you're struggling in life, think about who you're hanging around with. It's really, really true. Like we belong to a great group of guys golfing.
Yeah.
Right. And we're all grateful and thankful that we hang around some really good people. So goal setting, you weren't really there, but you're kind of disproving most. Again, you're, I might even call you a unicorn. That for a lot of folks who just struggle with money because they're not consistent, but you seem to have consistency in your life for most things, it seems like.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm very consistent with what I do.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think, did you or have you picked, now let me ask this other question first. What does retirement mean for you?
I don't ever see myself retiring.
Okay.
I mean, I will eventually retire from what I do now, but I've always had that mindset. I always want to work, you know? I mean, even when I've always said when I retire, I want to be that older guy, the tee starter at a golf course.
Okay.
You know, I just always wanted to be doing something. Like, I'm not the type of person that can just sit home. That's kind of what my dad did. You know, he retired at 55.
Right.
He goes out, he golfs twice a week, but that's about it. Other than that, he's kind of a homebody.
Okay. So does retirement mean that you no longer work? I'm just trying to get, there's the different, people have different definitions of the word retirement. And typically at 36, people are just barely thinking about it, right? And so I did a podcast earlier, and we talked to another gentleman, he's my age, I think he was 61 also, that, we were all taught that retirement was an age, and retirement's not an age. And in your case, like the other gentleman, Mr. Banks, who did his, I'll call it time, at his career, did 35 years and then retired from that company, right? But so many people, like you're saying, well, I may put in X years and my company's now going to, give me a retirement plan of some sorts. So I'm going to go ahead and exit there, but you're going to do something else.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah.
You want to.
I guess I would look at retirement as not having to work, is not having to wake up at 5 a.m. and get to work by 6 and work 10 hours a day and go home, So
you want to live life,
pick and choose when I want to go to work, live life.
Live life on your terms.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what retirement would be to me.
Well, you describe what I do. But but you know what? It's different though, because you're a W-2 employee. You'll be a W-2 employee until you're done with that career.
Correct.
I haven't been a W-2 employee for 40 years. Right? I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my whole life, and so no one tells me. Although there's definitely on my side of the fence, my mindset is what you described. I don't think about retirement. I think I'll do whatever I need to do as long as I physically can do it.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, we're all going to make more money with our minds than we are our backs. I taught that to my kids. Like, the people who work with their backs make the least amount of money because that's the least value you can bring to whatever situation. Right. Like the guys who work in your warehouse.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. They're drones. Right. They just know how to operate a forklift, take a ticket, fill it. I mean, there's not a lot of thinking going involved here. Right. So the more value we bring to a situation, the more money we're going to make. But you you rode that ladder in that company. You had to start down there.
Correct. Yeah. I started from the bottom. And
Did you know you were going to be at that company a while?
yes.
You did?
I kind of had that feeling. I had my original in, with friends
Mm-hmm.
is how I originally got the job. So it's actually a good friend of mine. His great uncle owns the company.
Ah.
So it's kind of how I got the in, but I had to work to where I am today.
Right.
It wasn't given to me.
Right.
I spent, 5-6 years in the warehouse, and then I was given an inside sales opportunity. I took that. After that, I only did that about 8 months until I became outside sales. Did that for a few years. Then I was sales manager and now branch manager. So I just kind of climbed the ladder.
So how much thought have you been giving, or do you give now currently to that? I mean, you've been 18 years. How many years do you think you'll do there?
I don't really have a number in mind.
No?
No, because I don't really see myself ever leaving the company.
Okay.
You
So
know?
you could do another 20 easy.
Easy. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe even more.
Maybe more.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I probably at least got a good another 30 years or more.
Maybe you'll own it one day.
Maybe.
That happens.
Know.
That happens.
You never know.
People stay long enough till they ultimately will buy the company.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a good family company. So there's still family that runs it. But like I said, I could possibly be one of those partners down the road.
all right. So you never had a mentor, because if people watch you, have been watching you, and I'm trying to think of an age, but let's not even think about an age. Has anybody come to you and say, hey, Joe, you look like you're doing pretty solid, and I have some questions and advice. Would you be a mentor, or they come to you for any type of work or money advice?
A lot of people, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say I'm a mentor, I guess. I've never thought about it like that, but
Right.
I do help a lot of people that I work with, and I talk to a lot of people, being a branch manager, I oversee quite a few employees. So
Right.
a lot of them come to me with advice, their problems and issues that they might be going through. And I always, try to tell them my situations and where I was and where I am now to hopefully, put a spark into them. And I always try to push them as well to go the next step, go the extra level.
Okay.
I have warehouse guys that I've given opportunities to and said, if you ever want to move up, and like you said, not just, be a warehouse worker, just out there breaking your back, move up, take the extra initiative. It might be scary to start, but after time you get more comfortable, and I try to just mold them into that.
Nice. That is being a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
right? To people. And have you watched people when you give that advice that they take it and you watch them do it, or the opposite, you give advice and you watch that it just kind of
Both
went
ways.
in. Yeah, it goes both ways, right?
Yeah, both ways. I have a couple people that have had many opportunities and never taken it, and they're still in the same position today.
Yeah.
And then I have others that have taken the opportunities and they're very successful now.
I was listening to this other podcast, and can you now recognize that within an employee just by their whatever daily habits, the way they talk and act? Can you recognize, oh, this guy's going to be good, or no, this guy's not going to make
in an
it?
interview.
Really?
Almost in an interview, you can kind of get a feel for it. And I always say, usually within the first 2 to 3 weeks, you kind of know what that person's going to be like.
Right. So you see the signals.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of you guys that are out there, let's give some advice to some of these people that are out there. I mean, I'll give you the little feedback that I just heard the other day. This gentleman, this podcast I listened to, who built a really large financial services business, insurance and whatnot, and ultimately sold it for a lot of money, like $500 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he would say, so he ultimately recruited and hired 1,000 employees.
Wow.
Right? Over time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not even that old now. I think he's 50, 51 or 2 or something, right? But anyway, but he cashed out huge, right? So, but he said, so he had one guy come to him. He said, oh, I've been a big admirer of yours. I really want to go to work for you. I've worked for, and he described these 3 other large insurance companies, large ones, right? Publicly traded, big companies. And he said, and he came in there, he goes, well, why did you leave that company? And one by one, he badmouthed the company, right? He goes, I don't like the way they run things. My boss was kind of a jerk. I could never really get ahead, blah, blah. Just making excuse and bad-mouthing company. And after the third one, he told the guy, he goes, so how long is it going to be until I'm number 4?
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
How long is it going to be till I'm number 4? So there was a pattern here that it wasn't the companies, right? It's you. So we all have to take self-responsibility. of where we are and where we go. And do people get hired where you're at? Do you hire people that come off the street, or usually because somebody comes in and goes, hey, I got a friend of mine. Can you help them out? Can we put them to work?
I mean, I've done it both ways, but I feel like sometimes I have more success with hiring people that are friends.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah. I've kind of always done that my whole life growing up. I've kind of always worked with friends. So I always kind of see it the same way, that when you get people that already have that connection together, they work good together.
Yeah. They don't want to let you down.
Yeah.
They don't want to let you down.
Exactly. They don't want to recommend someone that they don't trust as well.
I don't think anybody does. No one wants to get the phone call back. Hey, you recommended so-and-so and, they suck. They stole from me, or they didn't show up for work, or they're always late, or whatever the case may be, right? So good tips for you guys that are out there who maybe are struggling, and it's not the companies you're out there working for.
No, typically it's not.
It's you, right? You need to make a change in your life. Maybe it could be the 5 people that are around you that have your mindset a little upside down, and you need to check yourself and be like, I need to make a change, kind of a thing. So kind of some hard truths there, but that's reality, right?
I think sometimes people think that the grass is greener on the other side. You hear that comment all the time.
Yeah, it never is.
No, it's not. I hate to say it. I mean, probably more than half the people that have left the company within 3 months call me back.
Call you back. Can I come back?
Because they thought it was better somewhere else. They got maybe an extra couple dollars,
right,
per hour or something like that.
Right.
But then they find out that the company that they went to, there's other benefits they don't offer. And that's one thing I always kind of stress to my employees too, is that, our company offers a lot of benefits.
Right.
So that does go a long way with, a lot of people, especially these days.
How much did your life change financially when you got married? Because now you're a 2-income household.
Mm-hmm.
Did that really change the dynamic?
No, not really. So I think it's kind of more common these days too, but me and my wife, we have separate bank accounts. She has her money. She makes her money. I have my money. I make my money. She pays her side of the bills. I pay my side of the bills. And then anything left over, is kind of our fun money.
Okay. Interesting. Let's unpack that a little bit, because people are going either one direction or the other. And I don't know if this could be a generational thing, right? My house is different. It's one pot, and I know for me, my wife pays all the bills, right? I call myself, I'm my wife's worker bee. That's who I am, right? I go out, make the money. I'm like, here you go. I keep an eye on everything, but I don't actually write out the bills. But I'm definitely tight on it. Every Monday, I see what's this week's bills.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to know the number, because she likes to try to explain to me, well, we got to pay this and this or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. No. TMI, too much information. I just need the number in my head. I know where we're at and what's going on. But for me now, I zero debt. I have hardly any bills at all. So I know that my number's small every week.
Yeah.
Until we get to the mortgage. And that's the biggest number of the month. And it's not even that big a number. So, but I remember the days my monthly nut used to be about $15,000, and my weekly bills were a lot. And I used to add, that's when I would stress and have anxiety a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been a real stressful guy about money, just because I have huge confidence of myself making money. I've always told people, I can make money. Making money is not the issue. Where it goes after I make it was the issue.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Not the making of it. But some people have trouble making it. So in your case, so you keep separate, and I'm just wondering, I'm going to just do a little more research on that, if that's a generational thing.
I think it is, because, I do talk to, obviously, a lot of people in our golf group and stuff like that. They're,
right,
older, and I think a lot of them have all kind of traditional style. I think I consider that more traditional.
Okay.
But nowadays, I think it's kind of more common. A lot of my friends, they're all like that.
We're all like
all kind of just
I think it's
have our own accounts.
Whatever's comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a thing about trust. I think it's a thing about comfort. But yeah, I mean, whatever works, right? So you guys separate accounts and then just pitch in. Yeah, like one account that the both of you have, and the money goes there and pay bills out of that kind of thing.
No, she has her set of bills. I have my set of bills.
Oh.
Yeah, so like I pay the mortgage. She pays like a lot of the utilities and things, the cell phone and stuff like that. So it kind of works itself out.
Do you guys, and I don't want to get too personal about this, definitely no numbers. Do you guys know what each other have at all times?
In our bank accounts?
Yeah.
No. I would say no. We know how much we make, and we know how much we spend.
Right.
So I'm sure if we really sat it down and tried to figure it out.
Is that by design, on purpose? I don't want to know what she has. It's hers.
I wouldn't say that.
No?
No. I think it's just kind of how we've always been.
I'm just trying to figure out the advice that we want to give the listeners out there if they're, you know, and again, it works for you, which is awesome. And it may not work for everybody, right? Because some people don't want the responsibility of money and paying bills.
Yeah, probably.
They just don't want it. And they'll get married and they're like, you handle it, whether it's the husband or the wife, either or. And I don't think there's a right or wrong there. It's just someone gets chosen. And whoever's, in my opinion, whoever's the most responsible, take care of it.
Yeah.
I can remember sitcoms that I would watch. Like, I love watching Everybody Loves Raymond because it's funny, right? and that happened. Like, she goes, you handle the checkbook. He's, all right, I'll take it. And he screwed it all up. And then he apologizes. He goes, no. You take it back. You know how to do it. Clearly, I'm no good. Yeah. Right, with it. And does that. But was it, again, I want to help people out there. Was it, you knew you were getting married, right? You proposed. Was that a hard conversation for you to have with her? Hey, what are we going to do about our finances now that we're going to be as one? Was that a hard conversation? No?
Unfortunately, we've never really had it.
No. It was just,
you know, she knows that I have money invested like still in crypto, and I kind of, you know, I was still putting money into that when we were early married, but then I kind of got away from it because, you know, how the market kind of went on it. I kind of backed out, and she actually handles the E-Trade account. So
again, I don't know how one side or the other, if one side or the other gets in trouble financially, that you got to go to the side and like, hey, you know what? I'm underwater right now.
We're always there to help each other out, you know? Right. Yeah. Like if she's, you know, has a month of struggles or I do, we're always there to help each other out, back each other up. But
so would you say money conversations in your household are not a lot?
Yeah. Not too much.
Not too much?
No.
Okay. Well, I encourage most people to have those because without having them, and I'm not saying you, but for other folks who struggle, who are living the paycheck to paycheck, maybe you're trying to figure it out on your own. And like anything, if we can't figure something out, we need help. Right. And so if there's two people in an equation, definitely if both people aren't good with money, there's a problem.
Yeah.
If both people aren't. But in your situation, it sounds like both people are really pretty good with their money. And so there's no issues.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for you guys that are out there who sometimes will say, well, I don't want her to know what I spend things on. Maybe you're embarrassed or ashamed of the things you spend things on, whether what it is or I spent too much, right? Like my guest earlier shared with me, he's like, he goes, I probably spent too much money. I love bourbon. I probably spent too much. And then he goes, no, it's not probably. I know I do. You're right. And he knows he does. He just evidently drinks a lot of bourbon. And so maybe that's something you don't really want to share with your spouse. They just kind of,
I mean, she doesn't know how much each round of golf cost. Right. You know, I don't know how much those pair of shoes she just bought cost, but I trust her enough, and I think she trusts me enough to know that we're both well established. We both do well for ourselves. I mean, she does very well for herself too. She's kind of done this similar thing as me. She has had more jobs than me, but same industry.
Right. So that's another good question. I saw the video on when we're choosing our mates, right? Who are we really picking? I mean, the divorce rate's ridiculous in this world, and you're pretty happy, solid, going good. But I think for a lot of folks needing to have that talk before you get married, how are you with I highly encourage this with my daughters. I'm like, you need to find out. I always tell them first, find out this guy's credit score. Your credit score will tell a lot about a person, right? If your credit score is 580 and you're 22 years old, you're not very good with your money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a red flag. That's red flag 1. And so I teach my daughters that. Get that. He may be hot and he may be, driving this fancy car, but maybe by the hill of his, barely getting there or whatever. Right? So when you were with your spouse, obviously all those signals were all systems go. Right? All systems go. So, and you don't have any kids right now?
One daughter.
No, you got the one daughter.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, one daughter.
That's right. So have you thought, and how old is she now?
12.
12. Have you had any money conversations with her?
Unfortunately not.
Have you thought
I've kind of gotten her trying to be more in the work ethic because that's kind of where I came from.
Yeah, that's where you came from.
Yeah, so I kind of try to get her, I'd give her money to do chores around the house kind of thing,
Right.
Help me out the laundry, give you $5 or something like that. I started that at a young age. I mean, she was doing that at a very young age, and she kind of saved her jar of money.
Yep.
And, kind of like her own little bank account. So now that she's a little bit older now, she's, pulling from it a little bit, but she feels like she can go out and buy herself something now and not have to depend on us.
So have you, again, when I never had the money talk, I never had the sex talk from parents.
Yeah.
And I think these are big mistakes, though, because in your case, your child's likely to be okay because she's emulating, and you and your wife are doing the right things, the good things. And likely this is a generational thing where she's going to end up having a good work ethic and be fine. But would it make you feel better that you could give her a little bit of a boost head start mindset-wise?
Absolutely, yeah.
With the money, right? Because you keep a close eye on her friends, who they are when she, and what they're saying. Because she, at 12, this is right when it starts, right? I got kids aging from 23, the youngest will be 24 this year, and the oldest will be 40. So I got a few years under my belt. And I've noticed that it's right around that 12, 13 when they start to distance themselves from mom and dad, and they're more influential from their peers. And it's real important as a parent to keep an eye on that, not to go in there and scold them, but just really keeping an eye. Yeah. Just like you keep an eye on your employees. Is this guy really pulling his weight around here?
Oh, I look at that already to this day. Right. The group of friends that she's with currently, I'm like, all right, these are good kids. I have a good feeling about these ones, and I hope they stay friends because they're good kids. I know the parents, and I like that.
Keep an eye on that. Yeah. Well, I would encourage you, the things that you do know, to sit with her, because she's already shaped her mind. Her mindset is set with money, because I've done the research and the studies and all the conversations I have. It is between the ages of 5 and like 7 or 8. When if mom and dad were spenders, she'll be a spender. If mom and dad were savers, she's likely to be a saver. This is why in your case, mom and dad, great work ethic. So what she sees is that's normal for her. She doesn't see her other parents doing, or all these other parents doing whatever they're doing. She can only see what you and your wife are doing. And so kudos, you're going to raise a really good child, which in this world today is kind of tough. I mean, I know I wouldn't want to be a child in today's world with all the nonsense that goes on out there. I mean, even kids her age are going to school with guns. It's nuts. It's just really, really crazy. So what advice would you give if looking back, and you're only 36, your 18 to 20-year-old self, is there anything you would change? Any advice you would give that 18 or 20-year-old Joe?
That's a tough question. I mean,
I know you're pretty happy and solid, but but you're also a guy who wants to strive for more.
Yeah, I think that, at that age, if I were smarter with my money and did save more money, then who knows where I would be today. I mean, 18 years ago, 18 years ago.
18 years of compounding could definitely add up.
If I started earlier, putting a little money aside, who knows where it would be today, because I didn't do that. I didn't really start doing that until probably late 20s.
Right.
Until I kind of sat down a little more, because even when I first bought my first home, I was doing okay for myself. I was able to pay my mortgage, and I had some fun money, and I had fun.
Right.
Well,
that's what life's about. Let's enjoy life, but let's try to enjoy life on our terms, but be responsible, right? So that's almost the same answer I get from most people is, man, I wish I would have put more money to work.
Yeah.
Because you are, and again, you're at 36, you're not real young, but you're young enough, and you still got plenty of years to compound money, but it's still sound advice that when people are, if you're out there listening at whatever age you are, and if you're a little late in the game, let's say whoever's listening right now is 36 and they haven't done anything, like, we need to get on it. We need to get on it now.
Yeah.
We need to do a couple of things. You need to be proactive, get out there and start learning the game, which I help people with that. So people, you guys out there listening, most of you know, unless you're a new listener, moneyconversationswithkj.com. I've got a program out there that helps with financial literacy. I teach the fundamentals so we all understand the game, right? It's like any game, like we play golf. If we don't know the fundamentals, you're not going to be any good at it.
Yeah.
Right. And we have to practice the fundamentals all the time, whether it's golf or basketball or baseball or whatever it is, right? Knowing the fundamentals is what makes someone great at what they do, and without knowing them. Now, in your case, like a lot of folks, maybe you're not striving to be the multimillionaire, to have $10 million. You're just striving to be comfortable, be responsible, and do the right thing.
Yeah.
And then some people out there might think, well, that's kind of boring, Kev. Hey, boring works. Boring can definitely work.
I never kind of grew up, like you said from the beginning, kind of seeing how my dad was. That's kind of how I, grew up too, that I'm comfortable, I'm living, I'm doing what I want to. I can play golf on Saturdays and not be stressed about it. And, I'm comfortable right now, but I never really saw myself being a big multimillionaire or anything like that.
See, and I think that when we listen to like they call themselves gurus that like, you know, you got to do X, Y, Z and you'll end up with X millions of dollars or whatever. And I keep thinking, I'm like, not everybody strives to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Because I tell people the more money you have, the more responsibility it is. And you want to keep a simple life, chugging along, just stay ahead of the game, get yourself financially enough ahead of the game where you don't worry about paying your expenses.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's where you are today, which I really commend you. You're definitely you're younger than my oldest. So to me, anybody under my oldest kid's age is a kid, but but you're not a kid, but you're doing fantastic. I think it's awesome. I think today, the big takeaway here, guys, is work ethic.
Yes.
Work ethic. Just put your head down. People say grind the stone or whatever. Just be a good human being. Build some good work ethic. Don't squander your money horribly. Enjoy life. Mm-hmm. You've enjoyed life. You know what I mean? Yeah. Surround yourself with the right people. And in your case, you're in the position where you inadvertently are being a mentor to someone. And think about that. Some of the conversations you may have had with your employees may have changed their lives immensely. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Joe, thanks for coming out. It's been awesome. Sharon, for most of you guys out there listening, if you're on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you liked what you just listened to. And on the podcast, just follow me along. A lot more stories coming out. I've just really ramping up my guest here lately and trying to keep it out. But I know you guys are all enjoying it out there. So for all you guys, I'll talk to you on the next podcast. Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Really enjoyed making all these episodes for you. Remember, we're just having conversations with people's journey with money and the things they did right with it, the things that did wrong with it, and how did they really come about getting their mindset with money. So every episode's different. We all have a good takeaway from them. So do me a favor, hit the like button, smash the like button, and subscribe to my channel because every episode that I do is going to be different as all our journeys are different. So you guys take care, and we'll talk to you next week.